Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a highly detailed forensic audit derived from a fascinating source document, one that outlines what it calls a Gnostic Indictment. We're going to unpack the source material's intense examination of a completely classified deep ocean acoustic panopticon, allegedly operated by the US Navy. We'll be breaking down the specific physics, the massive hardware, and the really profound implications presented in the text. We're starting right at the surface with a massive digital anomaly that you can actually see yourself on public bathymetric maps, like the ocean floor layer on Google Earth. The source points out these perfectly spaced geometric holes spanning hundreds of miles across the abyssal plains of both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The immediate question this raises is pretty simple. What exactly are we looking at here?
Well, our source presents two very different competing narratives. The establishment narrative completely dismisses these massive geometric scars as simple mapping glitches, basically sonar data stitching artifacts created when survey ships overlap their mapping paths. But the source document, it argues something entirely different. It claims we are absolutely not looking at software errors, but rather the physical anchor points and excavated nodes of a massive deep ocean listening grid.
Okay, let's get right into Phase 1, the descent into the ISS.
According to the text, the military basically took the old Cold War-era SOS network, which, remember, was originally built to track Soviet submarines, and upgraded it into a sprawling, highly classified underwater acoustic panopticon. The claim here is that the US Navy operates a global network of underwater microphones designed to track absolutely everything moving through the deep ocean. They've essentially created an environment where nothing can hide in the abyss.
And the hardware required for this is just mind-blowing. The source insists we're not just talking about some cables resting gently in the mud. To build this grid, the Navy allegedly utilizes specialized deep-sea drilling platforms, patterned after the famous Glomar Explorer, to bore massive vertical hydrophone towers directly into the dark, crushing bedrock of the ocean floor. So when you see those perfectly spaced, mile-wide holes on a digital map, the author argues you are actually looking at foundational drill sites and power relay nodes planted straight into the Earth's crust.
Which brings us to Phase 2, the physics of the abyss. Because, think about it, building massive towers is one thing, but to track a target across thousands of miles of water, you actually have to weaponize the physics of the ocean itself. This brings us to a really fascinating piece of oceanography mentioned in the source, called the SOFAR Channel. That stands for sound fixing and ranging. It's a specific depth in the ocean where the speed of sound is at its absolute minimum. Because of how temperature and pressure work at this exact depth, it acts as an acoustic waveguide. Sound waves literally get trapped in this channel and can travel for thousands of miles without losing energy due to refraction. So tying this all together, the document argues that those geometric holes we discussed earlier aren't placed randomly at all. They're excavated power relay nodes mathematically spaced to triangulate acoustic signals across this exact SOFAR channel. It is a highly calculated, planetary-scale grid designed to perfectly exploit the natural physics of the deep ocean.
Now for the really wild part, Phase 3, hunting the transmedium prey.
While this grid was officially designed during the Cold War to hunt Russian and Chinese nuclear submarines, the source claims its modern upgrade has a much more exotic target in mind. The true prey, according to the text, are transmedium unidentified anomalous phenomena. Specifically, craft like the famous 40-foot wingless Tic Tac encountered by Commander David Fravor and the USS Nimitz back in 2004.
This crucial point is summarized perfectly by this quote straight from the text, which completely flips our standard paradigm on its head. The author boldly asserts that the UAP phenomenon is not primarily aerial, but naval. The argument here is that the non-human intelligence we're dealing with operates from the crushing depths of the abyss, not from outer space. Basically, the sky is just an empty theater. The ocean is the impenetrable hiding place. The document dives into intense forensic detail regarding how these craft actually operate. It details how the Tic Tac drops from low Earth orbit at over 80,000 feet, accelerates to hypersonic speeds of Mach 5 or higher, and plunges directly into the ocean. But crucially, the source notes it doesn't shatter. It doesn't even make a splash. According to the text, the craft uses massive, localized microwave energy, a process called electromagnetic supercavitation, to instantly flash boil the ocean in its path, wrapping itself in a permanent, frictionless bubble of steam. By literally vaporizing the laws of hydrodynamics, the source claims this breakaway civilization essentially turns the Earth's oceans into a private, untrackable highway.
They're moving at hundreds of knots underwater inside a plasma bubble, completely invisible to standard radar or conventional sonar. That makes the Navy's advanced acoustic grid literally the only way to track them.
All right, let's shift gears and look at Phase 4, the Mediterranean Logistics Network.
Because the source material doesn't just focus on the Pacific, it actually takes us all the way across the globe to the floor of the Mediterranean Sea. Here, the source identifies perfectly straight 500-mile-long trenches connecting NATO hubs in Greece directly to the coast of North Africa. Again, the establishment calls these software errors, but the document argues these are the thermal and geological shadows of suboceanic mega-engineering. The text claims these trenches hide massive transit tunnels, literally melted through the bedrock by nuclear subterranes. These are machines that use a nuclear reactor to heat a tungsten tip to over 2,000 degrees to melt solid rock. Alongside these are high-voltage power cables and quantum fiber optic tethers.
And the physical proof for this, according to the author, comes down to pure thermodynamics. The text mathematically deduces that the gigawatt small modular nuclear reactors powering this subterranean network generate massive amounts of heat. Because of that, they require huge 30 to 40-foot vertical intake shafts bored directly into the ocean floor just to vent boiling reactor coolant into the freezing ocean water. The source claims these thermal exhaust vents appear as perfectly spaced holes on bathymetric maps. Maintaining this strict forensic tone throughout, the source insists that the algorithms designed to blur out these planetary-scale mega-engineering scars frequently fail to hide the truth. The text boldly claims the map does not lie, the cartographers do. The sheer scale and mathematical precision of these anomalies, the author argues, simply cannot be dismissed by a software patch. Which leads us to our final section, the final sanctuary. The text maps out a geographical nexus of unidentified submerged object or USO activity. It specifically highlights the Puerto Rico Trench, the Catalina Basin of California, the North Sea, and the Pacific Ring of Fire. These abyssal zones are identified by the author not just as random hiding spots, but as the physical gateways and pressurized submarine pens for the entire Transmedium fleet. The geothermal energy and sheer crushing depth provide the perfect, completely inaccessible cover.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question derived directly from the source material. Are the digital maps we use every single day hiding a cyberpunk reality of glowing acoustic sensor grids, flash-boiling transmedium craft, and abyssal warfare just beneath the waves? It's a profound paradigm shift presented by the text, and definitely something fascinating to consider the next time you scroll across the ocean floor on your digital maps. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.